Good morning, everyone, here in the at the Abbey and also in your homes. Great having this intimate connection with folks, and appreciate everybody letting us into their home too. And this is our home as well, of course. Today, what I wanted to talk about is I wanted to kind of some of my thoughts about this talk came from discussion we had Tuesday that Corin led. And not all of you had a chance to hear that, but it was quite helpful and provocative for me, brought up a lot of things for me in my practice, and made me want to talk more, build on that a bit, and talk about the times that we live in and how challenging these times are, and how do we practice with that? How do we practice in these very, very challenging times? And there's also, as I was thinking about that, boy, there have been a lot of challenging times through history, and even in very, very recent history. I mean, like my parents, they lived through World War II and the Great Depression, all kinds of things that were very challenging for them and for many people. And that's just seeing it from kind of a Western eye. I mean, right now there's wars, there's incredible atrocities going on in the Middle East and Gaza. There are people starving. There are people who have all kinds of diseases that can't get medical help. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and it's not easy. So how do we practice with all that? And climate change, the our sick planet, quite frankly, and the rise of authoritarian regimes, the rise of authoritarianism in the United States, you know, and throughout the world for that matter, and this polarization, I'm all right, you're wrong, I hate you, you hate me, that kind of thing going on. It's not an easy time, and it is. Some would say it's not an easy time to practice, to do this Zen practice. They would kind of be able to open our heart to all of this and continue to move forward. So that's what I want to talk about today. And another aspect of it, though, too, is that these times they're covered so exhaustively compared to, say, like when my parents were living during the Great Depression or even in World War II and things. There wasn't the coverage, it wasn't the technology to have it just right in your face all the time. But we've got 24 by 7 news going on. We're getting texted all the time. We're getting emails all the time. So you can watch the news on your phone. Some people can watch it on their watch. There's just we're just so I would say overstimulated. We're we're receiving so much stimulus all the time. And when I one of the first times I did a weekend retreat, it might have been the very first time, I'm not sure, but I really had a wonderful I had wonderful experiencing of that first weekend retreat, and really touched me. And the next day I had to go on a business trip, and of all places, one of the locations that I was responsible for with the company I worked at was Las Vegas. So the next day I had to go to Las Vegas early, right? And so I'm checking into, I think it was like the New York hotel or whatever. It was an account of ours. So I go in there, and I had not spent much time in Las Vegas at all. But anyway, so I go in there, and I've got to check in. I'm just hearing this bing, 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 ring, ring, ring. I'm hearing all the slot machines, all this stuff going on. Total stimulus. It's so loud, and I'm talking to the person trying to check into the hotel at the desk there. And it was kind of hard to hear them because there were all these slot machine sounds going off, and all this kind of stuff, because it was right there. You were walking right through the casino to get to where you checked in, and to go from silence for that weekend and stillness, and then kind of the afterglow of that afterwards, and going to bed that night, and mine felt so quiet and everything like that, and then to go to Vegas. I mean, oh my God, it was overwhelming. It really was. It was just really difficult. In fact, I'd go so far kind of to say it was like offensive kind of. It was like I was under assault, is what I felt like from that. So anyway, that wasn't just one experience. We've all had experiences of kind of feeling overstimulated in certain things. And another example, you don't have to go to Vegas. It's like you go to any restaurant anymore, right? And they'll be like, or pretty much any restaurant, there'll be like 12 TV cameras, they got different sports on this, that, and like I'm talking to somebody, my friend, I'm talking to my wife, and whatever, but I find myself like, oh, and I got to look up at it. I don't even care what's on the TV, but it's easy to just get sucked into looking at this stuff. And for no particular reason other than, I suppose, habit. An environment that's very conducive to really kind of a attention deficit, behavior, on my part or whatever like that. Maybe I have a tendency to that. I don't know, but it's just wow. It's sometimes it's just too much. So again, it's just all coming at us. It's coming at us 24/7, 365 in these very difficult times, and it's in our face. So how do we deal with that? How do we practice with that? How can we do that? Well, a number of years ago, I had a little sitting group in Lafayette, and we didn't have very many people that came, but we probably have like about maybe a handful of people who would come each week, and we have discussions like we're going to have today after I finish talking here a little bit. And there was one of our like half dozen or so regulars, and all of a sudden I noticed she wasn't coming anymore, and she'd been really into it. Well, then she did come one last time, and she was basically just to tell me that she wasn't going to be able to come anymore. So I was just asking her about it, and she was saying, "Well, my life is there's just too much going on right now. There's too much going on," and boy, I can relate to that certainly. We have busy lives, but at the same time, I was thinking about that, remembering that situation or what I heard from her, and she never did come back, but she had enrolled in graduate school and doing some things, had a lot going on in her life. But I'm thinking, wow, in these times, how do we find the time and energy to practice with all these things going on? But, not to be Pollyannish about it, but I would turn that around. Like, how can we not find that time right now? Because one thing I've noticed, I'd be interested to hear if you all have had similar experiences, as I practice, put more energy into my practice, whether it's on the cushion or off the cushion, I find I have actually more ability, more time. It just seems like I do anyway, and I feel less harried. And things just kind of slow down. They really slow down. Because like right now, what's really happening right now? Okay, well, on one hand, I got to give this talk, and I don't know if I can remember everything. And I mean, give me a break. Look at the chicken scratch. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous, right? Am I ever going to find anything? I probably can't, right? So what am I going to do? And so, but on the other hand, I'm just talking to a bunch of friends and people I love here at home, right? That's all. I'm sitting in a chair and I'm breathing, and I got my hands over it, and I'm good at sitting in it. I can just sit in this chair. It's not bad. It's not hard. I'm looking at your faces, attractive group of people here, right? Nice people. And it's just not very difficult, There's this camera thing there, but you can't really hurt me. It's just like, I guess it is a camera. So what's so hard about it, right? And as I have practiced more time, I can relate to the simplicity of the situation rather than being caught up in the Vegas-like atmosphere that overwhelmed me after that first weekend retreat. And it was just too much. It's like, and I did not rush from my check-in to my room to try to sit on the cushion at that time. I was overwhelmed, right? It was too much. So anyway, I think that is one thing. Is so what do we do to deal with it? Well, we find time to practice. We make that a priority. That's very helpful, at least for me. And Shishin Roshi, one of his axioms that he shares frequently, and I need to hear it frequently, is that, he'll say, hey, I'm going to tell you the secret of Zen. Secret of Zen. I know you probably all heard this, but I still love the story. And so I'm like, it's going to be cool. And he's doing that for me? He's going to tell me the secret? Okay. And then he says, yeah, the secret is you keep going. The secret's to just keep going. And boy, is that not the case. That absolutely is the case. But when I first heard that, I thought, and that was very helpful, was I thought, okay, that just means I continue to practice. And maybe even when things get really busy, life's really tough, I have personal challenges to deal with, I've got things in the world that are going on that are really difficult for me, maybe I'm dealing with an illness, whatever it might be, that I just come in and keep going doing that. And that's very helpful suggestion as well. But the other thing is keep going, as in don't get stuck. I don't have to get stuck. Sorry, I don't have to get stuck in the fact that, Trump is doing away with the Department of Education, right? Do I like that? No. Mom was a teacher. I profited from education immeasurably. All kinds of stuff. Horrible things are going on in the Middle East. Horrible things are actually going on everywhere, all kinds of different ways, and most of them I'm not aware of, right? But does that mean I can't practice? Right? How's that going to help anybody? So, in the end, that idea of just keep going is at least two different ways of looking at it. More than that, actually. One is to not quit, to keep going. Another thing is to not get stuck, to keep going. And there was another thing about that. When he said it to me the first time, we were in Dokusan, and I remember that word just keep going. Didn't think about it a lot then, but that's a big just. I mean, just keep going. Hey, just keep going, right? It's a big ask to just keep going. It's not so tough in a way. That's, as in the case, just keep going. Oh, I can do that. I can just keep going. And at the same time, it can seem daunting. It can seem daunting. But I think maybe I'm projecting all over the place here. But perhaps, at least for me, what that means is I'm going to keep going on, moving, keep doing this practice. I'm going to do my best to recognize when I get stuck. And also, what do I really have to do? Even with all the stuff going on in the work, I just have to keep going. I think I can do that. I can do it right now. I'm not going to quit right now in this talk, right? I can do that. Sitting in this chair, talking to you, talking to people at home. I can just do that. The other thing I can do is I can practice not only on the cushion, I can practice off the cushion. If I practice on the cushion, let's say I practice, by practice I mean doing Zazen on the cushion. Let's say I was quite motivated and disciplined, and I found 2 hours a day, and I kept to that. 2 hours a day on the cushion every day. And I've done that before. We've all done that. Most of us have done that in retreats, more than that even. But I'm talking about do 2 hours a day every day. Okay? Well, there's 24 hours a day. So even if I do 2 hours a day on a cushion, which is more than most people do, I think, even people that are pretty serious practitioners, there's still 22 hours a day. If that's all I do, then I'm not practicing, right? And that's time that I could use practicing. I could do it. I could continue practicing. And I could do this practicing off the cushion. When I leave this Abbey and go home today, or like on Tuesday nights when I leave here, and I come all seasons of the year, as many of you have been here, many seasons of the year. And when I leave it, like at night in the winter, it may be cold, it may be windy, it may be a clear night, whatever, but it's pretty awesome because I am seeing things more clearly. It wasn't like being in the lobby of that hotel at Vegas anymore. It's like I've sat for a couple hours or whatever, or heard a talk or been in a discussion about things, and it's like I just have this appreciation, right? You stand up there, I see East Face and Longs Peak, I see these mountains that I love, I see all this stuff, and I just feel it seems so spacious. Okay, it seems spacious. There's a lot of space here, and I don't feel constricted. like, oh my God, what's happening? We got this going on. The planet's going to hell in a handcart. There's all this hatred. There's, oh my God, I can't do it anymore. No, I can just, I can actually do that. There's a lot of stuff going on that's really scary and horrible. Man, when I'm just walking out here or just being with you all, there's a lot of joy, right? Right now for me in this life. What a great thing to be able to be with all of you. I don't have to do this alone, right? You're supporting me. All of you are. That's the beauty of having this practice and this sangha to support us. I don't have to do it. When I'm going through difficult times, hey, you're going to support me. I can lean on you, right? We can lean on each other. And there's another thing. There's another thing in this practice. We talk a lot about emptiness, right? That we're empty of a separate self. We're empty of a separate self. Now, some people, when they hear about emptiness, they kind of freak out. It's like, wait a minute, there's no me? No me? No me? No me? That's what they hear. No me, no me, no me, no me, no me. Okay, that's the deal. It's scary. No, I exist. I'm this, right? And it feels like I don't exist. Is that what you're hearing? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm talking about is empty of a separate self. Everything. This pen doesn't really have a separate self. It couldn't exist without everything else in the universe, all the other materials, right? And right now it couldn't even do this without being in my hands. So everything is connected, and we're connected intimately, because that's the biggest thing we have in common is we're empty of a separate self. Well, if we're all empty of a separate self, including this pen, everything, every person, what an intimate relationship that is. How close that is, right? And even with people that we disagree with, even with people that might not agree with us on anything, or we might not, or whatever like that. But fundamentally, we are one. We're connected. And at the same time, we're not. At the same time, we seem to be different, right? That's common sense. It's like when we drive, the analogy I use all the time, like you're driving down I-25, you don't want to just say, hey, we're all empty, and just like, not check when you change lanes. You want to be sure that you don't kill yourself or other people on the highway. So in that sense, we have to be thoughtful. But even there's that connection. There's always this connection. Even when you're driving down a 2-lane highway, that other car goes that far. There's a certain connection, and more often than not, the driver coming the other way is going to see us, and we're going to see the driver. Not always, but a lot of times. So this deep connection. So this idea of practicing on and off the cushion is one that I would encourage everybody to really explore, because it's always there for us. And we can see things more clearly as we practice off the cushion. And they're not separate either. Being on the cushion, the zazen we do on the cushion absolutely carries over and helps us see more clearly off the cushion and experience more joy off the cushion. I know Joko Beck one time said that she can't, not necessarily always going to be happy in this world, but you can always be joyous. It's a little different, right? And I think she also used this line, there's an opposite of happy. It's called sad, but there's really not an opposite of joy. It can just be with us all the time, even in sad times. We can have that joy, and we can have that in these times as for sure as well. Another thing I wanted to just talk a little bit more about too is some of these difficulties that we experience and that we practice with. And my dad died years ago, but I remember as a little kid, I'd go in his office, and he had this statue. It was small. Statues maybe anyway, but it was a little statue, and it was probably about this high and that big, and it was of this figure pushing this rock. And later I heard the story of Sisyphus, right? And Sisyphus was sentenced to a life of pushing this rock up this hill, this huge boulder up this hill, and then just get to about the top of it, and then boom, 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 boom. it'd roll back down the hill. So what did Sisyphus do? He pushed the rock up the hill, yeah, but just got up. Then it goes back down the hill over and over and over again. And for how long? For eternity. For eternity, right? And, you know, I can't imagine, having that experience. But as long as he was pushing the rock or she was pushing the rock, what's the problem? Pushing the rock, just pushing the rock, right? Let's take a more realistic, a typical example. Some of you have done dishes on retreats here. You can get a lot of dishes, a lot of dishes. One time I was doing dishes here for a meeting of the White Plum Sangha, right? And there were boatloads of stuff. And I remember thinking, God, how are we ever going to get all this stuff done? And then Kyoto, Dharma brother, who was doing dishes, said to me, well, just do every dish like you're never going to get them all done. Just give up. Just start washing the dishes, right? And it made an impression on me. And I thought, well, that's kind of like Sisyphus, right? I mean, a little bit easier doing the dishes at a meeting than pushing a rock for all eternity. The concept maybe is kind of the same. So getting away from a story about what reality and getting into just the reality of things, right? Not the story of it, but the reality of it, right? There's a famous author and speaker that some of you are familiar with, named Byron Katie. And what she did, because we talk a lot about just let go of our stories. And I even alluded to that earlier when I said, like Roshi's saying, don't quit, but also let go, just keep going, don't get stuck. And Byron Katie's work, she had this realization experience that was very, very powerful in her life, but then she tried to help share this with other people in a way that was understandable and applicable in their life. And one of the things was she really came up with a structured approach to let go of our story. This very structured way, not just saying, well, hey, let go of the story, but give a little technique for doing it. Okay. And so just very briefly, I'll share. It's very, very simple. The idea that she had, that she shared with many, many hundreds of thousands of people, I'm sure by now living. But the idea was that we can question everything in our life. So for instance, if I said right now I had this thought, my life is too hard. I mean, it's really too hard. I just can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. Okay? So, and that's a hypothetical, by the way, but that's just kind of thing. We have those thoughts from time to time. Somebody might have it. And so her thing would be, okay, just ask yourself this question. Is it absolutely true? Life's too hard. And then the second question would be, can I absolutely know that is true? Okay, so the first I might say, my life's too hard. Well, is that true? And I'd say, yep, that's true. It's too freaking hard. It's too good. And then the person would say, can I absolutely know that's true? Yeah, well, yes, I can't know it for sure, but it sure seems hard. Well, is it hard all the time? Well, no, I was at my granddaughter's birthday party day before yesterday. It was pretty nice. That wasn't too hard. Oh, so it's not really too hard. Well, sometimes it's not. Okay. But how do you feel? Another question. How do you feel when you believe that thought that it's too hard? Well, terrible. It's just there's a pall all over it. I can't wrap my head around it. It's just miserable. I'm in misery. That's how I feel. Well, another question. So would there be any advantage in continuing to have the thought that life's too hard? Is that serving you well? And then my answer would be, honestly, no, it's not serving. I can't think of a reason When I do have that thought, I get nervous. I get sweaty palm. My blood pressure goes up or it goes down. I'm depressed. I'm constricted. I can't see the people in the room. Can't see the people on the monitors here. I feel isolated. I just feel isolated. It's horrible, right? And then, and then one of the things she also does, which is I think pretty cool, she say, okay. And first of all, she emphasizes don't just don't make it up and say it's not too hard. If you think it's too hard, just be honest with you. Yeah, it's too hard right now. But another thing, she says, okay, now give me a couple of examples of turning it around. So instead of saying my life's too hard, let's focus on actually I can turn that around. My life's not too hard. Give me an example. Went to my granddaughter's birthday. That wasn't too hard. I'm sitting here with all of you. That's not too hard. I have a beautiful family. I have a lot of friends. That's not too hard. You know, I drive here from Boulder. It's really not that hard. I know how to drive. I can do it okay. That's not too hard. So, in fact, some of the difficult things in my life, if I think back, have helped me. I wouldn't have chosen them. I wouldn't have chosen them, but you never know how life's going to turn out. It's like the old Chinese farmer story, right? Where the person has all these difficult things, like son breaking his leg, and that was horrible. But then he didn't have to go into the military, you know. And you've heard the story, but just all these things that seem to be bad, but they turn out kind of be good. We never know how it's all going to turn out. We don't know. It's always turning out. It's turning out right now. I don't know. It's just continuing to go. So I want to stop talking here momentarily, but I want to share something else with you. That we talk about this, that we're all empty, and everything in this universe is empty, and that far from being scary, as we sit more both on and off the cushion sit, if you will, as we are experiencing our life more and more, we can see that there is this deep connection, and this emptiness can be exhibited by washing, taking a shower, brushing our teeth, cleaning the kitchen, cleaning the toilets. These actions, these what's going on, what we're doing. Some of you have worked on the koan about, you know, who am I? Who am I when I brush my teeth? Or who am I when I mow the lawn? All these things. So as I'm doing these things, that is the life of the Buddha. These very mundane, what we consider mundane things. They're called mundane, but quite miraculous. They're quite miraculous. The fact that we're all here together at this moment in time, both in our homes and here, it's quite miraculous. Is that mundane? Right? So that's our Buddha life. It is just getting up at 6:30 or whenever we get up in the morning. It is just getting dressed. It is just taking a phone call. It is just seeing a text message that concerns us. It is getting a little scared from looking at the news and feeling that being scared. It is being a little down. It is being happy. It is being, but through all this, more and more, being able to tap into the joy. One of the things we talk about in Zen a lot is this notion of samadhi. And in retreats, we particularly talk about just experiencing samadhi, just being this connection, just being what we are, just being this, right? And of course, samadhi is this wonderful tool for that, but also being aware, being present off our cushion is as well. And I've heard some people say to me before, well, wait a minute though, isn't that when we have samadhi, we have that kind of an experience? Isn't that sort of looking for an escape, like we're going to retreat to have an escape for reality? Samadhi and our practice in general, though, from my perspective, it's not about having an escape from reality. I think it was kind of when I first started, because I was going through some things in my life and I wanted a break from them. And so I did try to use it that way, but that didn't do it for me, right? But instead, this notion of samadhi, this notion of practicing together is about being intimate with this moment, not escaping this moment, this incredible intimacy with what we are and what's going on in this moment. Okay? That's the idea of samadhi. Not to avoid it, not to put blinders on, but to be really, really the most intimate with everything, everyone. Okay? So I think that's more than enough for me. But I would be, or I am, very interested to hear what you all, what your reactions are. You're sharing from your life. You're sharing about dealing with these times in your life and how that's going for you. Anything you want to share. Any of the stuff's coming, a lot of this coming over from Tuesday night, even whatever you want to share. Love to hear it. And with that, I'll be quiet.